Okay, now we're recording. Let's just pretend that none of that stuff that happened before ever happened, right? Just, okay. So let's go back. Sorry, everybody. I hope that you are back to seeing the presentation. Is that good? Everybody good? Okay, great. Courses, soups, we got to simmer them, get them perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, but we can certainly work our way towards it. The first, I have several elements that I would like for you to consider. And these elements are based on the 24.5 years that I have taught here at Blue Ridge and how I have failed every single way. And only through having a lot of failures have I learned anything. The first ingredient that I would like for you to consider in creating a wonderful course is understanding your goals and solidifying those goals, clearly understanding the objectives that you have for the course. And for each one of these elements, we'll talk, the first slide will talk a little bit about course development pedagogy. And then the second slide is going to talk about a real tangible tip. For the tangible tip that I included for this one is consider developing goals or a goal for each unit, module, section, or week. It's a great way to kind of break down a course into more manageable bites. When I think about a course and the 400 things that I want students to get out of a course every semester, it seems like a lot. So I like to use the metaphor of, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So for each module that I have a short list of things that I want to accomplish. And it makes me feel a little less anxious about all the material, and I think it helps the students feel better too. The next ingredient is knowing your audience. When I first started at Blue Ridge, my assumption was that all of my students were going to be 18-year-olds fresh out of high school. And that is some of our students for sure. But here at Blue Ridge, I have taught people from age 14 to 82 and everywhere in between, with varying life experiences, et cetera, et cetera. And how do we try to reach that whole group of diverse learners? That can be tough. Here's a hot tip though. I try to start with the basics using easily digestible formatting, step-by-step tutorials, screenshots, simple explanations. Try to start real slow, real simple. Once students get the hang of the material, once students get the hang of how I teach, once they get the hang of how I organize a course, then I can start picking up speed and getting the content to be a little bit more difficult. But I do like to start off a little bit slow so they can dip a toe in before we dive in completely. The next thing I would like you to consider is how you structure your course. Every great soup needs a recipe, and so does your course. So a detailed outline that maps out each section and its objectives can be really helpful. Make sure you have a clear recipe card for all activities and assignments. I don't know if you're a rubric fan, but I am a big rubric fan. For every class that I have, every assignment has a very detailed rubric, which I think makes it pretty clear what it is my expectations are. And I get a lot less questions about, well, what do you want? What do you mean? Now that I have these detailed rubrics for everything. A bonus tip, I like to have a detailed schedule. It keeps everything running smoothly. I can change the schedule, but letting students know what it is that they're in for, giving them the roadmap so that they know what we're going to be doing each week seems to be pretty helpful for them, for the students that read those roadmaps. The next element to think about is how you develop content. And my opening sentence here is, just as you let your soup simmer to blend flavors, develop your course content by allowing time for thorough research and refinement. And I'm not good with this one, so don't be me, be better than me, which that's not hard to do. I get so excited about my content, I get so excited about my subject that I just start throwing things, not physical things sometimes, but oh, let me tell you this other thing. Oh, and I forgot to tell you this. And oh, this really cool thing just happened in the world of theatrical scholarship, and I got to tell you right now. And I think students appreciate the enthusiasm, but all that content coming at them fast and furious, that can be really overwhelming. So specifically since COVID, I have tried to find ways to streamline my content. I'm not dumbing it down. I'm not asking less. I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that I can combine assignments to make them not quite as overwhelming, but still giving them the learning opportunities that I need them to have. I like this last sentence here is keep things streamlined and focused to create a richer, more satisfying experience, allowing each flavor to shine through without getting lost in a muddle of excess. Muddle of excess, that could be my nickname. Adding flavor, so engaging learning activities. A bland soup needs a boost of flavor, and so does your course need engaging activities. Of course, the problem is what's an engaging activity? What's engaging to you might not be engaging to me, and it's the same way with our students. When I went to college, it was mostly the standard lecture, then students regurgitate that information back on an exam. And that kind of model has fallen out of favor a little bit. Um, I mean, like, whatever, teach however you want to teach. But one thing that I try to do is vary up my method. If I need to lecture, I'll lecture, but also I want to try to put different types of content. I want to use videos and forums, hands-on activities, anything that I can do to try to work with these diverse learners and maybe present them with something that they find exciting. One question I like to ask with my assignments is there a way to make the work fun? I think pretty much everybody learns better when you're enjoying what you're learning. That can't be possible with everything, of course. But if there's a way to make this assignment a little more fun, how can I do that? And I like that challenge of trying to make it fun. And then a bonus tip, particularly since COVID, students have not been shy to ask, how is this relevant? If you're a nursing student and you're taking my theater appreciation class, I think that it's a fair question to ask, how is learning how to design a set for Macbeth relevant to me? I got a lot of thoughts about how it's relevant, and I'm really excited to share it with them because I think all learning is relevant. And students are asking a lot. How does this pertain to what it is that I want to do? I had the same question when I was taking geometry in high school. What does this have to do with what I'm doing? Come to find out, I'm really bad at geometry. But what I learned was this efficiency of thinking, which I have used every single day of my life. But nobody told me then that it was going to be really important to me. So I try to make sure that I let the students understand how all of this can be important. Tasting and adjusting the evolving of design. Taste your soup regularly to ensure that the flavor is just right. Get feedback and then adjust the course accordingly, even within the course of a semester. So don't be afraid to make the adjustments, but make sure it's super clear what's being adjusted. And listen, my friends, do not make an adjustment that makes it harder for the student. If students are really getting it and you're working ahead, that's awesome. But if you tell them that that 20-page research paper is now going to be due 2 weeks early, that is not going to work out for you. So just keep that in mind that you do want to be able to make adjustments, but students have to be really clear on what those adjustments are and never make that adjustment make more work, harder work, quicker work for the student. Bonus tip is let students know that you're keeping an eye on the soup. Do those course announcements, even in face-to-face. I like to do the course announcement once a week just to let students know, here's what we're doing, here's where we're at, how's everybody doing, just a little informal check-in. And then if I have a discussion forum, I like to drop in there frequently and let students know I'm participating in this class too. I love a good garnish, as I'm sure most of us do. Enhancing the visuals and the presentation. You know, these students today, they are discerning viewers of information. So how can we present something that's more visually appealing and eye-catching? Engaging slides, colorful charts, nothing new here. I'm not great at graphic design. Obviously, you're watching my presentation, you know that. But Canva, if you've never used Canva, it's a great free tool. There's also a paid version, but it's a free tool that can help people that maybe don't know what they're doing when it comes to graphic design, put together something that looks passable. So if you're great with graphic design, awesome. You go do your Photoshop that I'll never understand. But if you're like me and you don't know what you're doing with graphic design and presentations, that might be a useful website for you to enjoy. Serving up. Now, the delivery methods, you don't have any control over that. None of us do. They tell me that I'm teaching this class online, I'm teaching it online. But what you do get to control is how are you going to develop the content in order to serve that delivery method? So think about maximizing hands-on activities for in-person classes, exploring interactive content for online learners, and developing team activities for hybrid classes, then mix and match. I love it when my online students, I force them to do hands-on activities and then take pictures or video of their process. I think a lot of times online students think that it's going to be a point click situation through the entire class. And there is a lot of pointing and clicking online. But if I can make them do hands-on stuff too, just because I like to vary it up as much as possible. The side dish of providing support and resources. A good meal often comes with a side dish, and a great course includes additional resources. What kind of supplementary material can you include that can enhance the learning process? And what about office hours and how you're available to support those learners? One of my colleagues created a soup pot. She calls it a coffee bar because she didn't know about the theme, where students, it's a forum where students can just drop in, ask questions, and then interface with other students to try to crowdsource answers. And I'm going to put that in all my classes because I think that's a great idea. I get a lot of emails from students asking a question, and then 7 other students email me asking the same question. But if I had trained them to drop that all into this forum, then maybe that's 8 less emails that I have to answer. And what a great way for them to learn how to solve problem themselves by working together. Also, make sure that your students know the kitchen hours and the typical response times so that they know when you're available to assist them. I tell students my grading days, and that cuts down on the when are you going to get to it. And I also have all my work due on the same day. That's not always possible for everybody, but all my students know that this upcoming semester, all their work's going to be done on Friday. So there's no, well, this was due Monday and this was due Wednesday. If that's how you set it up, that's great, but having those days be somewhat standardized can be really beneficial to the students. And this may be the last one, at least I know that you're hoping so. Sharing the meal. Enjoying soup alone is pleasant, but sharing it with others makes the experience even more rewarding, unless it's French onion soup. And if that's the case, keep your fingies out of my soup. So the hot tip is, as it says here, I don't want to get all studies show, but studies do show that if students form strong peer connections, they're more likely to persist in the class. They're more likely to persist in college in general. So how can we foster those student connections, particularly in online courses? It can be really difficult. But I find that mixing things up, students just love those group projects, don't they? They don't. But making them do group projects, and I grade them individually on group projects. I figure out what everybody's going to be responsible for in that group project and then grade them accordingly so that if they get a dud in their group, they're not going to be penalized for it. I encourage study groups. I like peer reviews, peer teaching. If you haven't done peer teaching, that's one of my favorites. It's where I ask individuals or groups of students to learn about one particular concept that we're learning and then teach it to the class. And students really like doing it too because they get to get creative with it. Spice up those interactions with engaging discussions and icebreakers and regular feedback sessions. Anything that we can do to try to get them interacting as much as possible. So, bon appetit. I hope that you have a wonderful course this semester. And I'm going to check the chat now because I talk too much. But there's no questions in the chat, but are there any questions or your own tips that you use that you think helps build an amazing course? I'm a fast talker. You all are probably still like catching up. All right. Well, thank you guys so incredibly much. I really appreciate you being here. I hope that at least one of these tips is something that might be helpful or useful to you. And if you ever have any questions or problems, feel free to call me. I'm certain that I'll be able to commiserate with you because I have done many wrong things since I've been here at Blue Ridge. And sometimes I find a better way to get through it. Sometimes I don't. So I would love your advice with stuff too. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah, Jennifer, you're letting them off the hook way too easy. You can stop recording if you want, but I would love to see people throw something in the chat or take themselves off a mute and put something in that chat or share with us out loud, something you heard from Jennifer or something that you've done that you're definitely going to try this semester.
Yeah, y'all. Come on. Was that less nice?
Yeah, a little less nice.
All of you do one cool thing and you don't get to leave. I got nothing to do until tomorrow morning at 8 a.m.
Look at
Tell me one
that.
cool thing you
Yeah.
do.
This is not unique and or very exciting, but I teach online, but we have a synchronous first session for syllabus day. And at the end of it, I'll have students interview a partner and then introduce their partner, and then challenge them to make at least one friend before they leave the room. And then the people who are joining synchronously online, I'll do this. I'll put them in breakout groups so they can do the same thing.
That's awesome, Michelle. Thank you so much. The breakout rooms is something that obviously that I have not mastered. But a colleague of mine was talking about how they do their discussion forums in breakout rooms, even in an online class, which makes students have more, instead of having a connection with 30 students in a class, they've got 4. And it seems to make a better connection. Oh, and somebody asked in the chat how I did the presentation. It's through Canva. So, and the information that's on it, I don't know. I tried to pick 10 things that I thought might be helpful and then used Google to find soup metaphors. So Google, Canva, and my own small little pea-sized brain brought you this wonderful presentation, and I hope you enjoyed it. We've got 26 seconds before we are automatically snatched from this room. Anybody else want to share a little something amazing that they do?
Daya here. I just have a little bit of struggle with my online classes as an ASL instructor because, we're sharing the screen and I use Canva, but sometimes I'm not able to see my student.
Hey, we were in the middle of a question. I'm gonna put my email in the chat, and if you want to discuss this further, send me an email. And I'll be happy to continue this discussion. I would love to hear the question that you were in the middle of asking.
Okay, thank you.
That's the worst part about those breakout rooms. Sorry. All right. We are back into the main room so that we can move to our second breakout. And I've renamed those rooms as Teaching and Learning with AI and Getting Started with My Courses. And I'm going to go ahead and open those rooms up again and invite people to join a new room. And if we're having trouble doing that, I just need you to let me know, because it's showing right now that everybody's still in the room, so I don't think that's the case. Let's go ahead and reopen the rooms. We've got Teaching and Learning with AI, that's with me, and then Getting Started with My Courses is with Jamie. I've just reopened the rooms. Hopefully you're getting an announcement. If anybody needs to get moved and doesn't know how to do that, I can try to help get you moved.
We're going to go Getting Started with Our Courses.
Great. Dustin, let's get you moved.